Alright, I think we're good now.
Diablo 3, Path of Exile, and World of Warcraft. The RNG random number generator game mechanics that made Diablo 2 the greatest game of all time through randomized loot, dungeons, monster spawns, and even skill damage ability gave you a new experience every time you logged on to the game and has given the player base infinite replay value for 20 years. Diablo 4 has now evolved into a
I don't know if I would say infinite. Like, I've played a lot of D2. I have decades of D2. I still play Diablo 2 Resurrected. I played it last night. I don't know if I'd call it infinite replayability. It can get tiring after a bit.
repetitive gameplay style that gives you the same experience over and over.
Wait.
That is less rewarding gameplay style for 20 years. Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive gameplay style that gives you the same experience over and over. That is less rewarding and is for the casual player base and MMORPG based game mechanics.
When has MMO mechanics ever been casual? MMO is one of the most hardcore gaming crowds out there because they're psychotic grinders. I'm not sure I'd say MMO mechanics are casual. Anyway, so he says Diablo 4 is bad because it doesn't have RNG. I mean, that's basically his premise here so far. Diablo 2 good because it has significant RNG. Diablo 4 bad because it doesn't have RNG. So I'm wondering if he's actually played Diablo 4. Like, Diablo 4 has most of the same RNG as Diablo 2. Loot drops? Number rolls on said loot drops? Actually, is skill damage in a range? I don't know if skill damage is in a range, but that's also completely fucking irrelevant. Skill damage has never mattered. Nobody's ever given an actual damn about that. Repetitive. Bro, I spent 6 months in Diablo 2 one time, farming Pindleskin before they nerfed him. Pindleskin! You want to talk about repetitive? The Pindleskin meta was misery. Diablo 2, ARPGs in general are nothing but repetition. All of them. Even Diablo 2. Every single ARPG is repetitious grind. That is the entire design of the genre. What do you mean Diablo 4 is repetitive and Diablo 2 isn't? Oh yeah, no, this 1400th cave run is it's gonna be slapping. It's gonna be so different than the other 1399 cave runs I just did. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be real different. Oh yeah, I love the cave, bro. I need more of the cave. Six months, nope. Yeah, I couldn't do Pindleskin for any longer than that. I'm sorry. I wanted to die. D2, greatest game of all... D2 is... greatest game of all time is... That's a bold statement. Calling anything the greatest of all time is a bold statement because there's always going to be people who disagree. Sometimes a lot, sometimes a few. So that's a bold statement in and of itself, but Diablo 2 was generally a great game. I don't think I've ever met anyone who hasn't at least kind of liked it. Well, anyone who can tolerate ARPGs. We're talking specifically the ARPG crowd here. Obviously, there's people like Fortnite players who went back and played D2 Resurrect and were like, what the fuck is this shit? What do I do with this? The greatest game is one I like, true. So, what I've noticed from this video so far is he's projecting a lot. This guy... I don't know where his insecurities lie in the... He's probably worried Diablo 2 is going to die because of Diablo 4. But I'm sitting here like, he's projecting a lot. Even the title, why Diablo 2 players hate Diablo 4, implying it's a common thing among Diablo 2 players to not like Diablo 4. Chad, I was a Diablo 2 player. Decades of it. Still play it today. Or, well, still play it yesterday. I like Diablo 4 so far. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's the GOAT game, but I like it. I think it's good. I did not like Diablo 3, for context. But I like Diablo 4. He's definitely not speaking. He should not be speaking for all Diablo 2 players, because my entire friend group diving in, anecdotal as this may be, I think we're like 14 deep now. They're all Diablo 2 players who are also hyped for Diablo 4. Like, what Diablo 2 players aren't interested in Diablo 4 right now? Point one out to me, other than you. I can point one out, but other than that, you know? So, repetition. That is the entire genre, back to his point, though.
Now, I've been considered one of the most controversial Diablo 2 content creators for my critical opinions.
It's definitely because of the critical nature of your opinions, sir. Definitely, yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah. It's because they're critical and not for other reasons. You're like a wall projector. You know, like one of the ones back when you were in elementary school or whatever. Or I don't know if they keep using it past that, but the projector that would just shoot an image onto a white background. He's one of those right now. I think I figured out why he's controversial. Mystery solved.
And somewhat of an outcast because of them. 98% of Diablo-specific content creators are partnered with Blizzard. And this is probably why you have never seen me use the hashtag DiabloPartner.
Okay, another implication here that he's making is that Diablo partners are bad, and he's good because he's not a Diablo partner. Implying that Diablo partners can't be critical of Diablo products, of Blizzard, and that you can trust his opinion because he's not a hashtag Diablo partner. Well, let's go over to this list here. Mr. Llama SC, I've seen more than a few very critical takes from him about Diablo in the past. More than a couple. He's even had some concerns about Diablo 4 in the months leading up to now. Let's see. I don't know, not sure. Riker, maybe a little bit more of a point. Riker's like Blizzard's golden boy for Diablo. So he's very hesitant to have a negative opinion, but he's still had a few criticisms. Like, you know. Anyway, anyone on Mac's roll? Well, basically everyone. Okay. So, kind of poisoning the well here a little bit, you know? Implying that you shouldn't be listening to any of these people, but you should be listening to him.
I've always expressed myself to the fullest and never tried to gain the approval of everybody, which is an impossible task when fully being yourself. The game is my love and passion though. I will be as old as Decker King going on a rant about game mechanics and just my overall love for the game. All of my opinions come from a place of love, and I want Diablo to be in the spotlight like it should have been for the past 20 years. So let's talk about how the Diablo 4 game mechanics work. I will explain to you how Diablo 4 has now evolved into a repetitive experience from a Diablo 2 player perspective, explaining the core game mechanics that are important to understand for the long-term success of Diablo 4 or any Diablo game. Diablo's unique gameplay style and replay value is possible through the term RNG, the random number generator. This was the main core revolutionary game mechanic of Diablo 2.
Diablo 2 did not invent RNG in video games. They existed long before Diablo 2. They have existed long since Diablo 2, and they will exist long after Diablo is a footnote in history. Diablo did not invent RNG in video games, not even close. It wasn't even revolutionary at the time, because all the other video games were doing it too. Okay.
This core value has been exiled from the Diablo franchise since the release of Diablo 3, and now abandoned by Diablo 4. Now, you may have asked yourself, what is it? What is it about Diablo 2 that made that game the greatest game of all time? Why did I spend 20 years playing this game and not others? With my studies of quantum physics and my spiritual journey, I realized 95% of our brain's thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, perceptions, and more function like an automatic, unconscious computer program.
Oh no, he's one of these. Okay. Okay, he's okay. All right, we're going metaphysical with this shit. Let's do it. I'm ready. Maybe this is the meme video. Great guy. Yeah, I've followed a lot of Mr. Llama's build guides over the years. Yep. I'm salty I didn't make partners videos about why D4 is bad. No, he probably could be partner if he wants. I think his numbers are big enough. Blizzard don't actually care. As long as you're not a problem, then you have good viewership, they don't care. Why are we watching this? Maybe he makes good points. Let's find out. We're going metaphysical.
Your perceptions of the real world and the gaming world are a set of unconscious programs. This theory, along with the misunderstanding of Diablo's core game mechanics, were the real reason why you had these beliefs
Misunderstanding
about
the
Diablo 2
core
being
Diablo
the greatest
mechanics.
game of all
Okay.
time, which I will explain in further
Very,
detail
very confusing
later on.
mechanics.
Chris Wilson, the creator of Path of Exile, studied these theories as well about Diablo 2 when he was creating Path of Exile. Chris knew Diablo 2
That shirt. Oh no. Okay. What do these? Hey, Robin, you still there? What do these tokens mean? What does this mean? Spirituality plus quantum physics buzzwords. True brilliance incoming. Yeah. I mean, it's a form of philosophy. I don't think this dude necessarily understands it, but the guy he quoted probably. I mean, it's a form of kind of new age philosophy. It is what it is. Maybe it has merits of thinking about things, but I highly doubt it has any application in what this video is about. Nor is the dude making this video probably even remotely aware of what any of that shit actually meant. I'm not even sure I was. But taking Chris Wilson as a paragon for anything game design related just makes you want to tear your hair out. As you're currently playing PoE. Yeah. I've certainly had my disagreements with old Chris here, which is why I don't play Path of Exile anymore. I haven't for a while.
was the greatest game of all time, and he studied the game to its core. Every time you log on to Diablo 2, you have a new experience because of the RNG mechanics. Every moment is different.
He's still not saying how Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 don't have
RNG.
RNG.
Every time you log on to the game. When you enter the world, the dungeons are randomized, along with the types of monsters that spawn, the loot that drops, the map layouts, and even your skill damage ability. Now, when you play...
Okay, nobody cares about skill damage ability. Not a goddamn soul has ever looked at the damage range of an ability and been like, yeah, I'm going to cast this 14 times in the next second and a half. This matters. The one exception being maybe lightning spells. And aside from a brief period in time where, what is it called, Spark? The one where it runs across the ground, I can't remember the name now. There was a brief window in time where that was kind of meta. And other than that, everyone hates lightning. Why? Because damn does it suck rolling 1 3 times in a row. So the RNG actively makes people not use lightning skills. That and lightning immunity is kind of a pain in the ass. But so in this case, RNG is working out of his favor in this argument. He does have a point about map generation, though. Kind of. When you first start, he's right. Everything seems random. You gotta go exploring right up until you realize it's just a tile set. Like a couple of blocks attached to each other. And the algorithm that builds these tile sets is not terribly complicated. Speedrunners can look at the entrance tile and know exactly where the exit is. Why? Because it's only pseudo-random. The exit's always going to be in certain locations depending on the starting tile. And somebody went through all the map configurations and discovered that if you go right, every opportunity you can take a right, you will find the exit faster than going left 80% of the time. I think it was 80% of the time. Anyway, like, it's not as RNG. It's not like the pathing of the dungeon is completely fucking random, like at all. No. Once you've played Diablo for a few months and you're on your, using this for example, your 10,000th Bale run, you got a pretty good idea of where your Sork's teleporting to. Not to mention the entire meta of Diablo 2 is teleporting anyway, so the randomized map layouts don't matter because you're skipping all of it anyway. So he kind of has a point, but it's not. It's a shaky point, you know. It's there, but I don't know if I'd build an argument off of it.
Diablo 2, as I said,
Yeah, D3 also had D3 had less pseudo randomization. I will say that D3 was a bit more static. There was a little bit of it here and there, but for the most part, when you went into a dungeon, it was very similar, if not pretty close to identical layout. Some exceptions. Diablo 4 is always static. So he's got a point there. Diablo 4 dungeons, as far as I can tell, have all pretty much been the same every time you go in. They're more sculpted rather than random. But does anyone actually care? Like, procedurally, it's not even procedure. If it were procedural generation, I think he would have a point. Procedurally generated dungeons are kind of neat because you never know what you're getting into. But that's not what Diablo 2 is. That's not what Diablo 3 is. That's not what any of these ARPGs are. They don't use procedural generation. They just use tile sets that get slightly mixed around. Path of Exile is another good example. Path of Exile's maps are, some of them are a little more random, and some of them are sculpted. They're exactly the same every time you go in. At least as far as I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure some of them are static. I thought they were going to procedurally generate them on full release. I don't think so. I don't think that's been the plan. As far as I'm aware, procedural dungeons have never been a thing in Diablo 4. Most of the endgame maps are entirely static. Okay, alright, so, yeah. So even like Path of Exile, which is currently touted as the holy grail of ARPGs, even they have kind of stepped away from pseudo-randomization to a degree. And, but even in the areas where they do have pseudo-randomization, like the world map or the world zones, say you're looking for the Beast's Den. Gee, I wonder if it's gonna be in the bottom corner when I come in. Like, I come in, I wonder if it's gonna be down in this area. Every fucking time, no matter how it slightly randomized the hills and stuff. Is it gonna be down? You think it's, I'm gonna go down here and find it quick. Like, even on the maps that do have some shift in generation, everything is generally localized. Like, you can kind of expect where to find things when you go in. Like the waterways, for example. I know generally where to look for all the exits to the waterways. Is that what it's called? It's not the waterways, is it? You're in Act 2 town, you go out this side instead of this side. What's that area called? It's got like 3 or 4 exits, and I generally know where to find each one every time. I don't remember what that area is actually called. Very few have meaningful fluctuate. Yeah. So ARPGs have just kind of moved away from this because it lets you sculpt the experience less. Like, the entire time you're in a Diablo 2 dungeon, everything is basically the same. Like, because the tiles have to fit with each other, the entire design of the dungeon is static from start to finish. Like, this screen is basically going to be all the screens until you get to the next floor. There's going to be, other than the pathing and what's available to move through, the walls are all going to look the same, the floor is all going to look the same, everything's just going to look the same the entire way through because it all has to be able to fit together and shuffle around. The nice thing about sculptured dungeons is your visual elements can vary and change as you're going through the dungeon because it's not going to be weird if you have this one tile with corpses all over it that's more icy, just randomly appearing out of nowhere, and then you got like rocky terrain on each side of it that's pristine and full of like broken suits of armor and shit. So, being able to sculpt the dungeon creates more of a visual narrative, whereas the pseudo randomization does not allow for that visual narration necessarily. I mean, you can get the broad strokes, like you get a feel, an atmosphere here. There's a clear atmosphere, but there's not a lot of visual storytelling other than that, the general feel. So, I don't really think one is inherently better than the other. And honestly, I think pseudo RNGs, it's kind of pointless. I don't actually care about it. If procedural generation, I care about, because that can make things legitimately interesting. But that's not what Diablo 2 had, or has. So that's not even a matter of question. It doesn't matter.
95% of your perceptions of the world are unconscious.
My perceptions of the world are unconscious. I mean, that's kind of true, but also kind of a pointless statement that doesn't mean anything other than you're. So he's saying, like, he's kind of trying to counter my argument right now in that nobody cares about the random range of damage rolls. But subconsciously you're perceiving those damage. No, I'm not. You know how many times I just attacked in the last 10 seconds? Subconsciously, my subconscious isn't even keeping track of that shit. This enemy took 27 spellcasts to kill instead of 28 spellcasts to kill. Fascinating. That's not happening. For him, maybe. I don't know him. I'm not him. Maybe this is legitimate for him. Maybe his subconscious is tracking every little tick of damage somehow. Mine sure as hell isn't.
Unconsciously never...
To the point, to make my point further for myself, again, I'm not speaking for anyone else. You can all speak for yourselves. I don't even remember if Diablo 4 has random damage. Is there? Or is it all just you hit and you do this damage? I don't remember. That's how insignificant it is to both me and my subconscious. I don't remember. I just played Diablo 4 like last week or something. I still don't remember if attacks have random damage ranges or not. That's how inconsequential it is. Just lurking while working. Sup, Antsider. The fact that a lack of randomization makes you run specific maps more because you know that... Yeah, exactly. Like, what have been the most popular runs in D2? What is the most popular run in D2? Sanctuary. How much RNG does Sanctuary have? Basically jack shit. And it's the most popular farming run in Diablo 2. And then what are some of the other old class... Pindleskin, 0 RNG there too. The Cave was a popular one. There was a little more randomness to that one. Bale as well, you could argue. But that's only getting to Bale's Arena. Once you're actually on the bottom floor is basically identical every time. As is the fight with the trash mobs you're there to kill. So the only difference there is that, you know, you spend, I think it's the average speed run of a Bale getting to the bottom floor, I believe is 15 seconds? So the RNG matters for about 15 seconds, and most people chain running Bale runs on their Sorks or their Enigma Paladins or whatever they're running. Most of them know exactly where the exit's going to be depending on where they started. So you're looking at a 15-second run from top to bottom. And I believe the speed runs for Bale right now, or at least last time I checked, were like 1 minute and 6 seconds? From the point you teleport in to the waypoint to the point Bale dies, I think it's like let's say 1 minute and 6 or 1 minute and 36 seconds or something like that. Sorks obviously hold the record. So, yeah, about 15 seconds of that experience, maybe, is teleporting through the RNG, and you're not even going to see it. You're teleporting so fucking fast, it's all just a blur.
Knew exactly why Diablo 2 was the greatest game of all time. And these core game mechanics pass right by your awareness. This concept of...
No, they don't pass by my awareness. Again, why does nobody use lightning? Because the damage range sucks. Nothing like rolling a 1, an 18, a 7, a 9, and then finally hitting 112. Ah, good, I finally hit them for respectable damage that did something to their health bar. Huge. No, it's not subconscious. People notice when it matters.
The Diablo world had you constantly addicted to the rush of wanting new experiences. You just
Except there were no new
realized it
experiences.
this whole time. The loot being randomized gave you a sense of overwhelming accomplishment when you found
He's not
something
using
like,
an
such as
enigma.
a high
Must be
rune.
early in the
This
season.
extreme rarity combined with the reward of extreme power left the player feeling like they were
And this item single-handedly debunks half of his argument. Because this is the endgame goal of every player in a new season. Get your Enigma, so you don't have to play Sork anymore. That way you can skip all this fun random content. And just get to the boss, slap his dick around a bit, kill him, take the loot, rinse and repeat. He is right. Having rare loot is important, though. I'm not sure how that's a tick against Diablo 2, Diablo 4. Diablo 4 has rare loot as well. Maybe he's thinking about the one test weekend where they bumped up legendary drop rate by like 10 times. That was just to test the legendaries. Last time I went through the entire weekend, it didn't get a single legendary drop. Not one the entire weekend. But he's right, having relatively rare drops is important for an ARPG, and Diablo 4 seemingly has that because we haven't even gotten up to uniques yet. And uniques are apparently a much lower drop rate even than legendaries, so I feel like they're going to be pretty rare. I think we're good there.
truly rewarded for their effort. The reason why Diablo 2 players won't like Diablo 4 is because it doesn't have these core game mechanics of the RNG.
Diablo 4 doesn't have RNG. No, it's like drops are still like, jeez. Like even this, he's showing RNG right here. The numbers you roll on this are random through a range, just like in Diablo 2. This could be 9.3. It could also be 7.8. It could be 10.1. And what item you get is also kind of random, like this could have been an amulet, or it could have been a pair of pants. Could have been rare, could have been common. The only RNG that doesn't exist... Actually, can you show a skill?
In Diablo 4, the
Show a
world
skill,
is
you
almost
coward,
always
do
the
it.
same with no RNG. The dungeons are the same repetitive experience over...
Yes, the dungeons don't change. At least none that I've seen so far. However, again, that's not that much different than every other ARPG, because Diablo 2's dungeons did not change in a meaningful way either. And the most popular farms didn't change at all. Sanctuary.
over and over again.
He kind of has a point, but it's not a good point, is the issue.
Open the door. The monster spawns are somewhat randomized, however, mostly the same. So now let's talk about soulbound items, no trading, and the itemization. So
the enemy are somewhat randomized, but not entirely so. Again, just like every area in D2 that has a specific set of creatures that spawn, and then each pod is a different randomized makeup of those creatures. Same thing in Diablo 4. You go into a dungeon, there's a certain number of creatures that can spawn in that dungeon, and then it just randomly builds packs out of those creatures. Exactly the same as Diablo 2. There's no difference here whatsoever. This is not a point.
98% of the item drops
Sup,
are
Jack?
for your class and gives you no sense of accomplishment. This term is called personal loot, the same repetitive experience. This is a spin-off concept from World of Warcraft instance loot, where the loot drop...
He's got a point here. I don't like this. I don't like the personalized loot. You still get items for different classes. Like, here's an example. He's got one here. This I'm not a huge fan of, but it also doesn't break the game. It doesn't matter that much. It's fine. I don't like it, but it's fine. Because one thing in Diablo 2 that did get me to try out different classes, at least early on, later on I was just doing whatever the hell I wanted, but would be getting a cool unique that really worked very well with this other class. I'm like, oh, wow, this is powerful. What if I... So that, he's got a... This is a point. This is a fair point. I don't... I think it's fine to a degree, but I think it needs tuned back a bit. Like right now, it's like maybe 10% of items that drop, maybe not even, it's probably about 5% of items that drop are not specific, you know, to your class.
Are most
Although, I guess that's not really true either because the mechanics on the rings, yeah, okay, yeah. So about 5% will be other class viable, but I feel like if it were closer to 50-50, that would be better. Like half the items that drop are personalized to your class and half aren't. I think that'd be probably okay. It'd be probably fairly decent. And this is something they can change. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But okay, he's got a fair point here.
the same from bosses and become soulbound.
So
This has
far is
removed
only a fair
the
point, though.
idea of item drops being unique, special, and rewarding. This is to appeal to the casual player.
What does this have to do with item drops being... the point you're making and the conclusion you're drawing from it have nothing to do with each other. The item drops are just as unique as they were going to... Like, it's still... Carry on.
Also, the World of Warcraft player base because it has a massive following, and they like the concept of instance loot. They don't like RNG-based item drops. This gets them interested in the game and makes Blizzard more money from a wider audience. Also,
How
the
dare
loot drops
they?
were increased for the beta. However, I still think Blizzard is going to have legendaries dropping like RAW runes.
As somebody who just played through a weekend where they put the regular drop rate, no. No, they're pretty rare. I didn't get a single one. I think Dan got one, and one of my other friends got one. Oh, one of my other friends got two, actually. So, across 4 people over the entire weekend, we saw 3 legendaries drop. That's out of 4 people. If you add in the other people who were also there, I think it was 8 of us total. None of the others got a legendary drop. I didn't get one. Most of us did not. I think only 2 people got a legendary drop. And uniques are supposed to be even rarer. Like, significantly rarer. Like, they're your chase items.
Just to benefit the
You got
casual
2, one
player
from
base.
Gamble Guy. Okay,
And
it was you who
also
got 2
for-
then. And then I think Davey got 1. I'm pretty sure Davey got 1. I think it was Davey. It's either Davey or Joel. Either way, 3 legendaries dropped for all of us over the entire weekend. So the drop rate seems pretty decent. Sup, Foxsoul, what's good? Just passed your finals today. Hell yeah, congratulations. But it comes with the time. Yeah, it's also inevitable. Like I said, they could definitely tweak it back. I think the current numbers are a little too rigid. I would be happy with 50-50 split on the way they drop loot. I think that would be the best of both worlds. It would allow me to reasonably find items that encourage me to try out and play other classes for a season. And it still helps me make sure I can farm for the stuff for the class I'm currently playing. Like 50-50 seems reasonable, or 60-40, or somewhere in there. I think what is it right now? It's like 95-5 is a little extreme. I don't actually know what the numbers are, but that's pretty close to what it is, I think. Games have become easier. Can I interest you in PoE and 3,000 Hours of Agony? Diablo 4 ain't all that easy either. At least, not much easier than Diablo 2. Again, I was playing Diablo 2 last night. Very fresh in my memory.
So, soulbound items and no trading. Have you ever heard any player say, I don't like trading? I don't want trading in Diablo.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Never.
Trading
Let's say you find a Zod
needs
ring,
to be in.
the rarest rune
But
in
most people have been vocal about wanting trading in the game. So, I feel like this is one that will be remedied eventually.
the entire game of Diablo 2 that is for a build like a barbarian, and you found it on a sorceress, so now it has no use to you. If this was Diablo 4,
You can still transfer it to your own
trade it, one of
characters.
the rarest items in the game, and you now have to just salvage it. Even though item drops are class-based, what if it's not for your build? Will this happen in Diablo 4? Most likely. This theory isn't absolute because we haven't experienced endgame. So why does
True.
Blizzard want no trading when 98% of the Diablo community wants trading? There are many
Yeah, I'm not-
theories to this. One is Blizzard thinks this will fix real money trading. However,
No,
there will always
that's not
be
the
real
reason they're
money
doing it.
trading when trading is
That's
available
stupid.
in any kind of form. There's no fixed RMT unless the game is completely solo self-found. Blizzard wants you to actually find the items yourself to complete your character. In other words, they just want you to be solo self-found. This restricts the player from
They do
having
want you to
freedom
find your
make
own
their
stuff because they think
choices.
that makes it more exciting. And it's true, finding your own stuff is more exciting. But if you go on a particularly bad luck streak or you're looking for a particularly rare item, you know, trading helps kind of mitigate those gaps. Finding your own stuff feels great. But having the option to trade for stuff too also feels pretty good. So this is what they want. They want you to find that thing and they want it to be like a whole moment, you know? Like a whole hot damn, I finally got it. Or wow, I just found this off the cuff. I'll just switch that over to that character and we'll do great. You know, that's why it is. They want those big high moments. But trading is going to be important. It's eventually going to get. If they want the game to thrive into the future, trading will arrive eventually. Probably with a season.
Instead, they should just have
It'll
a
be like the
self-found
season
league
draw.
like Path of Exile. They're literally forcing the player base to be solo self-found. Another theory is they are trying to appeal to a wider audience of players, which is probably World of Warcraft, where soulbound items are the pathway to endgame gear completion. The next theory is they personally think this is the best for the game and its future, regardless of community feedback.
Yes, that's what they believe.
And the last theory is they think Diablo
3... These two are not exclusive. These two are the reason, most likely. I'm not Blizzard, but based on things they've mentioned about trading and how they talk about trading, and the reasons they gave, as vague as they are, it's these two here in conjunction with each other.
3 was a success based on sales of 30 million copies without trading.
Not even... So, chat, there's a reason Diablo 4 devs are trying their hardest to set Diablo 4 apart from Diablo 3. This isn't even a question. They know it wasn't. Like, Diablo 3 is a meme. There's a reason they've taken the best parts of D3, or what they believe to be the best parts of D3, and then put them in a D2 package. Is essentially what's happened.
However, when Diablo 3 was released, everyone hated the game, and it died. The game had 200 Twitch viewers for years. The game was completely lifeless, while Diablo 2 had 40,000 players online in 2016.
So he shows Twitch numbers versus in-game numbers. This is a false equivalency. This is not a good comparison. This is stupid. You know another game that has shit viewers on Twitch, but a healthy, thriving community? Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 has garbage viewership on Twitch, but has several 100,000 people playing it. I think the current estimates are somewhere between 300 and 500,000 players logging in each month to play. But it has just a... What are its current... let's see. Where is the Twitch.tv? Twitch.tv. Don't autoplay. Mute it. No, it's already muted. Cool. Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2. We have, let's see, category. 1.8k viewers. And I would like to point out, this is 1.8k viewers less than a week after a new content drop. New content dropped last Wednesday, I think. So 6 days ago. A whole new story update. 1.8k viewers. And yet apparently they have several 100,000 people playing every day. Or was it every day or every month? Either way, whatever metrics they're using. So his argument is patently stupid here. Because this means nothing.
And for some reason, Blizzard still seems to think that the game was a success. Diablo in the franchise is like the Beatles.
Blizz is sinking. D4 is their saving grace. Yes, exactly.
The music or the
Diablo
game
4
is even
and
good at all, it's going to sell millions.
Diablo 4 and Dragonflight are the only things keeping... I mean, Overwatch 2 was doing great until the PvE announcement. Now I'm curious how that's going to go. As of right now, it's probably still doing fine because the PvP is still fun. We're not in a shitty meta right now. People are salty. Maybe they're spending less money out of it. Maybe people left. We won't know for a little while yet. The fallout of that, the ramifications of that, won't be readily available for a couple of seasons. So, hard to say there. But Diablo 4 and Dragonflight right now are Blizzard's life raft. He's about to make a point here about how Diablo 4 is going to sell, like, flapjacks, like pancakes, like a big old stack of them. And he's right. It's going to sell like crazy. It's already sold like crazy. Whether it's good or not, it was going to sell.
Millions of copies just because of the hype around the name.
Yes.
So let's talk about the constant restrictions of gameplay. Diablo 4 is advertised as an open world game. The world makes you feel restricted on the places you can go because there are barriers everywhere. The dungeons are usually one pathway and
just like Diablo 2. Last I checked, Diablo 2 had barriers everywhere too. Like little mountains in the way, little buildings. You know, you had your edge of the map. Sometimes the map was cordoned off, like it was just this weird T-shape with a growth in the bottom corner. How is this any different than Diablo? He's pointing a dungeon out like it's the open world, by the way. He's saying this about walls and restrictions while in a dungeon and not an open world map. Even Diablo 3 was no more restrictive than Diablo 2. This is, again, another... This one's just outright a lie. Like, there's no way around it. He's making shit up now.
it literally makes you feel trapped in the world. Diablo 2 was 10 times more open.
10 times more open. As he shows you none of the minimap. And he shows you in one of the few areas in the game that is relatively open. Go to Act 3, you coward. Go to Act 3 and tell me how open it is. I dare you. Go to Act 3. Do it. Why don't you show the Fractured Peaks overworld instead of a dungeon? Why? I wonder why. I wonder why you won't do that. This is why we're watching the video, because people watch this and they believe it. So I throw it out there with corrections and stuff and pointing out the dumb, and maybe 4 people see it and are like, oh, well, fine, cool, okay, this other guy, all right. And then I offset the damage slightly. Not that, you know. Why are we watching this? I just explained why. So he's lying here. This is not good.
And I'm not sure why Blizzard has designed the world this way. When it was supposed...
Let me show you a better representation. Let's see. Let me see here. Where can I go to look for something like this? All right, what are we on? 835. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and show you the Fractured Peaks. Is this zone guide? Are they going to show like running around it? I don't need to hear it. All right, here we go. Somebody running around in the Fractured Peaks. There you go. Look at that. Oh well, this is the start, which funnels you in. Let's get to a little further in. Okay, that's the town. Yeah. Can we go to the actual, like, zone? Bird. Alright. There you go. See, it's about as windy as D2. Some areas are a little more open, like the moors. Some areas are a little tighter, like Act 3. It depends where you're at and what you're doing. He's still in the early starter area. Does he get out of the starter area at any point? Or is he just, like, locked in there? There you go. Here's an example. That's a pretty wide open area. That's about as wide open as anywhere on the moors. You got this area over here that's relatively wide open. It's just got a couple of things, little hills you got to go around here and there. This place is a bit more mazy. This is like Keep. There's an event going on. This is actually a castle here out in the open. That's why it's a little pathed off. D3 was also relatively open too. Like, I remember Act 1, after you get out of the spider cave and you're in the highlands, those were pretty open zones too. And this is just one area. This is a mountain. Mountains tend to be less open than maybe, you know, plains and fields. Like, an area that's probably going to be more open than the Fractured Peaks with more space is probably Skosglin, realistically. And who knows where else, but even the Fractured Peaks, which is a mountainous environment, craggy and cliffy and shit, even it has relatively sizable open areas. So that's a better example. It's not perfect. I was kind of hoping they'd be running through things, going places, but they're not. But either way, you get the idea. All right, 835.
When it was supposed to be open world.
And again, he picks the most open region in Diablo 2. It gets a lot less open as you keep going through.
Many aspects of the game that restrict you.
How did this one video go viral, though? You don't understand? Because a lot of people want to hate what's popular. So there's a lot of D4 haters right now, just because D4 is popular. You know. The what's the term for it? The anti the contrarian crowd. That's it. They want to be contrary to the mainstream
and things you want to do. You can't go wherever you want because of the barriers in the open world. And
you can't go wherever you want because of the barriers in the open world. As he's standing between barriers that control where you can and cannot go. That's tough, brother. It's a tough one.
Open world, and you can't trade all of the items either.
And again, this is a dungeon. He's in a dungeon. That's why it's
certain items. You constantly have to salvage.
Why it's so tight. And Diablo 2 dungeons are equally tight.
Legendaries, etc. There's always something restricting you from progressing. When instead you should just be out in the world killing stuff, not crafting constantly in the main city like World of Warcraft.
I didn't craft shit the entire time. I crafted a potion upgrade, but that took 5 seconds. I literally walked to town, talked to the lady, hit the upgrade button, and left. That was it. And Diablo 2 has crafting too. You just do it in a box instead of at an NPC. But you still have to do it at your stash, because you need all the crap in your stash to do it. So you're still going into town, sitting there, and crafting. Considering cube crafting is a major part of the meta, again, he's just outright lying here. Or he doesn't actually play Diablo 2 and doesn't know what he's talking about, period. Maybe he doesn't play either Diablo.
I don't know. These features should be choices, not requirements. And
the game offer more interesting gameplay mechanics than just killing mobs mindlessly.
Because
exactly.
There was crafting and there were ways.
Well, at least he mentions it, and he notice how he's sitting in town crafting. The exact thing he just complained about.
Ways to enchant your items and do other different types of crafting and enchanting abilities. It's just, you didn't absolutely have to do it.
You also don't absolutely have to do it in Diablo 4. Because the items you craft are not necessarily any better than the items you find. It's just another way of generating loot. The only one that might arguably be mandatory is the potion crafting. And like I said, you walk into town with shit you just farmed outside of town, talk to a lady, click a button, and then leave. Which is no different than going back to town constantly to refill your potions. In Diablo 2. You go into town in Diablo 2, talk to a lady, spam click a bunch of times to fill your belt up, and then you leave. Same thing. Except in Diablo 4, you only have to do it a couple of times through a character's life, instead of every 15 minutes.
To be able to progress your character in the game. When you're completing the Diablo 4 story and quest...
Or if you're a feeder like me, about every 5 minutes.
You can skip the cutscenes. However, you still spend hours of time hitting your escape key to skip the cutscenes. Every side quest has the same boring scene. Also, every quest is a lot of walk.
This is a common complaint. People want to be able to skip through these dialogue sections as well. Understandable. Again, here's a reasonable take, but at the same time, you're still hitting escape a lot in Diablo 2 as well. Every time you go talk to Tyrael to turn in a damn quest, he's got this slow-ass scrolling dialogue. You still got to hit escape to get through it. Admittedly, you're not waiting there afterwards while they interact with the environment, but that's because Diablo 2 had shitty visual storytelling. And modern games have gotten better at visual storytelling since, you know, the 90s. A lot better. Admittedly, I do think sometimes it's a little way slower than it needs to be. And there's certainly room for improvement there. So I'll give him this as an okay point. Again, not enough to build an argument off of, and certainly doesn't make up for all the roughness we just witnessed, but this is a point.
Walking and a lot of talking to NPCs. I don't know how many times I had to walk all the way across the map for so many quests, when I could just be out there killing stuff. It feels like they are trying to make the game
You're killing stuff when you're
open-world
walking
type
across
atmosphere
the map,
to
by
World
the
of
way.
Warcraft with a action RPG spin-off.
No
that
different than
has
going
a
out and
ton
hunting
of
down Azul and
restrictions.
killing him.
Runewords are not completed for the release of the game. They were a feature Blizzard announced to try to get Diablo 2 players into Diablo 4. This is basically the same thing.
Runewords are coming. It's been confirmed. They just wanted to change the way they worked because they weren't happy with them. This is what they were before. This was the original implementation in D4. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. Honestly, it's probably better than Runewords in Diablo 2, because Runewords basically just turned everything into get Enigma, get Insight, done. Which got kind of boring. But anyway.
Socketing an item with a jewel or a perfect gem. They are not rune words. You just get different effects based on the rune. The feature isn't completed.
Which they're not happy about, which is why it didn't release, because they're supposedly reworking the way rune words work. And they're not satisfied with what they are right now. They wanted them to have more oomph. They wanted them to be more. So again, he's out of the loop here.
And I'm sure Blizzard
which is why they're not
will use
released
this in
yet.
an upcoming patch to gain hype. I don't think they understand the complex game mechanics for runewords, because this requires a lot of testing and knowledge.
The complex gameplay mechanics for runewords. What is complex, other than the fact that this looks like somebody vomited a bunch of statistics onto a piece of paper? What was complex about runewords? LOD along with runes, yeah. What is this conspiracy that WoW players are being lured into D4 like there isn't significant overlap in ARPG? There's a ton of overlap. Case in point, I am both an ARPG player and an MMO fiend. I am both. Why? Because there's a lot of overlap and I'm a grinder. Yeah, Classic didn't have... Yeah, exactly. Classic didn't have rune words at launch either. They came with Lord of Destruction. Yeah, also a fair point, TZ. And there's nothing fucking complex about rune words. The only thing complex is the fact that you have to figure out what the hell you just made. Like, that's it. That's the complexity right there. And this is no different than how rune words were going to be implemented in D4 before they decided to rework them slightly. You throw a rune in, and you gain new effects. It's no different. The only difference is you can't put them in a specific order to make a rune word. Which nobody experimented with anyway. Everyone just goes to a website to look up the rune words. Especially when you got something as rare as a fucking burr. So again, a stupid point that doesn't actually mean anything.
To be balanced properly.
Balanced properly. Well, first of all, Blizzard has never balanced anything properly a day in their life. That is well beyond their capabilities. For some reason, they just can't seem to wrap their head around the idea of balancing. And second of all, You're now looking at the strongest, most mandatory item in the fucking game, which is a rune word, which was definitely not balanced because everyone except Sorks had to use Enigma. Everyone. Yeah, that sounds balanced. A must-have mandatory item.
And most of the devs at Blizzard that work on Diablo games, I don't think they know anything about Diablo 2. And I also never see them ever playing the game. It just seems
because they don't stream on Twitch? Are you stalking them? Are you outside their window right now with a pair of binoculars made out of red Solo cups? Like, what does that mean? That is very presumptuous. How do you know?
seems like they have a job and working at Blizzard is really cool, so they just like to be at Blizzard for the clout and the hype. I never
No, but that's no. That hasn't been true in over a decade. Working at Blizzard right now is a shit show. Why do you think everyone's leaving? This is not true and has not been true for 5 years, absolutely. Probably not for the last 10 years. Because of Bobby Kotick's philosophy on workers and how you go ahead and just fix that carpet with duct tape. It doesn't matter if the place is falling apart. You don't want too many amenities because you don't want your workers distracted. Actual things Bobby Kotick has said. Like, there were pictures and shit that leaked out of Blizzard's offices over 10 years ago where they were using tape to fix the floor. Anyway.
I've never seen one Blizzard employee actually play the game, so I assume
comments on this video. Oh, we'll take a look after. I'm curious.
Diablo game mechanics that come from the other games, such as Diablo 2. This is probably why they copy and paste Diablo 3, because they don't actually understand Diablo at all. This is why the skill tree is like Path of Exile, and the rest of the game is just like World of Warcraft with a spin-off. It doesn't seem like
the skill tree is nothing like Path of Exile. The skill tree is more like, honestly, it's more like a skill twig. It's not really much of a tree. There's not a whole lot of decisions to make. There's not a lot of weird pathing or anything. What he should have shown is the Paragon board, which is dead smack a copy of Path of Exile, and about as daunting to look at as well. So again, I'm not even, does this guy even know what's going on with the game?
PvP is going to be completed for the release. This is impossible to balance with the current version of the game.
It was impossible to balance with Diablo 2 as well.
Than my actual health. If Blizzard wanted, they could balance PvP and get the game on an esports level of popularity.
No, Diablo 2 was never balanced for PvP. It was always a fucking joke. You got paladins teleport hammering your face into oblivion, insta-dying if they land on you. PvP has never been balanced in Diablo. Diablo 2 never had a shot in hell of being an esport. Diablo 4 does not have a shot in hell of being an esport. It's not going to happen.
I just don't think they care enough for the game as much as they do World of Warcraft. I fear
they've also said the PvP is not designed to be balanced. It's designed to be chaotic.
Won't see many major content patches because after 2 years they will make the majority of the money that there is to make from Diablo 4. I don't see Blizzard making...
Okay, he's making another presumption here based off Diablo 3. However, Diablo 3 was not important to Blizzard when it released. They were doing pretty good elsewhere. Blizzard is ride or dying on Diablo 4. If Diablo 4 flounders or does not produce significant income, Blizzard's in trouble. And it needs to carry Blizzard alongside World of Warcraft for the foreseeable future, because I have a feeling Overwatch 2 ain't going to be doing so hot in a year. And Hearthstone's already a disaster. Like, they've made a new mobile game, maybe that'll carry them a bit. And Diablo Immortal kind of makes okay money. Not enough on its own, for sure, but it's raking in some cash. And their new, what is it called? Like Arclight something or other or something? I don't know. They're doing another weird little mobile game. That might draw in some money, we'll see. But Diablo 4 is right now, all their eggs are in one basket.
enough money off
So I
cosmetics,
guarantee the seasons are
battle
going to pop
passes
off.
for them to actually care for the game as much as they care for World of.
And do you know why? Because they can sell battle passes every new season. That's constant income generation. And you know what you need for that to be successful? People who want to come back and play your game.
Warcraft. Maybe
That was
the game
Diablo 3's
was a
problem. It didn't have any
subscription-based game. It's just
continuing
over time,
monetization,
won't
so
make
they had
enough
no
money
incentive to
from
keep
the
working
game
on it.
anymore. So I don't really see them continuing to.
So this guy
develop.
just has a fundamental lack of understanding of economics here. Like, just from the ground up, he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to economics. Or economic incentivization.
More features and more of the end game in the future. Also, there seems to be what I call a culture flip or a new age of Diablo players that actually like Diablo 3 and even Diablo 4.
There are people who like Diablo 3.
After the release of Diablo
Mechanically
3,
speaking,
everyone hated
Diablo
the game,
3 is
even
actually
before
solid.
It was released.
The problem
Also,
with Diablo
game
3 is the
died
end
while
game is
Diablo 2,
ass.
as I said, had
And it's
40,000
a
players
little too
online.
simple.
I will say I love Diablo 4, and so far it is a wonderful game. However,
I love Diablo 4. Why Diablo 2 players hate Diablo? He just he could have just saved me an hour by starting the video with that, and we could have been done. Let me just say, I love Diablo 4. Okay, cool, bro. Cool. This whole thing, it was a bait. I just got baited. It was a trap. He sprung it. Well played. God damn, well played.
everything that made the franchise unique compared to other games has been dismissed for years.
Diablo 2 was never unique from other games. Ever. In its history. There were even other games, like I played an ARPG that was more unique than Diablo 2, significantly so. It was Japanese themed. You were like the clan, one of the like Japanese houses or clans or whatever you call them. I don't remember what it was called. Apparently there was some uproar about it because pedos were on it or something. I think that was just a rumor. I don't think that was ever confirmed. But you know, video games were spooky back in the day. Nobody understood them. Parents were terrified of them. So a lot of rumors flew around. So my mother didn't want me playing online with that one anymore. I could still play it single player, but I wasn't allowed to go online with it. But anyway, I don't remember what it was called. Dan and I played it a lot. We actually played it pretty steadily for about a year. It was kind of cool. I actually really liked it, but what was it called? What was it called? Oh, let me see if I... Was it... Hold on, let me text somebody. There's somebody I can text who might remember what it's called. Give me a second. No, not Dan. He might actually remember, but no, not Dan. Put your text friend line once. This is now an ASMS stream. Nice. Throne of Darkness. That's what it was called. Throne of Darkness. They knew. They remembered. They remembered. Huge. Throne of Darkness. Let me look it up. Let me make sure that's the right one. Yeah, that's it. Throne of Dark. There it is. That's the one. Yeah, there's the cover art. Yeah. Throne of Darkness. This game was significantly more unique than Diablo 2, insofar as ARPG terms go. They had an extremely hardcore limited inventory, though. It was terrible. I hated it. But anyway. Yeah. Anyway, this game was pretty cool. I played a lot of it, too. Anyway, back to he's closing the video.
And this is why there's an outrage from Diablo 2 players.
Where? Where's the outrage? Show it to me.
All we wanted was a new game that was similar to Diablo 2 and
Congratulations, you got it.
its core game mechanics, such as
Congratulations, you got it.
rune words and end game. It surprised
Nobody wanted Enigma coming back. Fuck off with that. Nobody wanted Enigma coming back. And rune words are presumably still being worked on. They'll probably release with Season 1 or Season 2.
surprising to me that this new age of Diablo players tell us to go play Diablo 2 if we like it so much.
Diablo 2 Resurrected is right there. Fresh and updated. A year old. Right there. It's getting updates too. Like they're updating the game. Go, right? It's right there. I was playing it last night. Still solid.
And tell us we're on some kind of nostalgia trip. When
Yeah, this entire video was a huge nostalgia trip. Like, the rose-tinted glasses were massive.
everyone hated Diablo 3 to begin with. So
No, people didn't hate Diablo 3 until they got to endgame. Some people were not happy with how simplified the classes were. But people didn't hate it until they got to endgame and realized how miserable endgame was. Oh, and the RMT shop. Real money shop. Nobody fucking liked that, but they ended up removing that. Pretty quickly, too. That only lasted a couple of months, I think. Six months, maybe? I don't know, whatever. They got rid of that. People hated that, and people hated how bare bones and samey the endgame was. There wasn't anything to the endgame. That's what people hated. About the time Reaper of Souls came out, people actually started warming up to Diablo 3. Why? Because the actual gameplay mechanics were visceral and felt good, and they were solid. The problem was just the endgame, and some of the oversimplification of the systems.
I guess it's just a new age for Diablo.
Alright, cool. Well, that's that video. Fair enough. I'll link it again. Real quick. You want to go take a look at it yourself? Okay, let's take a look at a couple of the comments. A few notes here. Many of Diablo partners are my friends. People. Okay, so he's commenting on that. I'm not trying to say they are fake. Well, yes, that's exactly what you were trying to say. Want to partner with Blizzard? Whether you meant to do it is another matter, but that's exactly what you were saying. So that's okay. Let's see. I recorded this video in 15 minutes and I tried to upload video later on. I was speaking too much in a way of acting like I was representing everyone, and I apologize for that. Again, it's because you were. At least he's commenting on it. I mean, that's cool. That's fine. Yeah. This is a good follow up. It's solid. Diablo's my love, passion. I'm sure Diablo 4 is going to be an amazing game, and even though some of the spark from Diablo 2 is missing, it's a new game. We shall be grateful all these. Alright, sending you all my love. P.S. Studying quantum physics. Quantum metaphysics. You forgot the meta. But anyway, fair enough. Why Diablo 2 players hate every game that isn't Diablo 2? Except most games are Diablo 2. Diablo 2 really wasn't that overall unique of an experience. It was just an experience that was done well. Never seen someone use RNG wrong so many times. I think he used it right. He used it mostly right. Random number generator, randomly. Some things weren't number generated, like the map layouts were random, but they weren't RNG because there was no numbers being generated. But that's semantics. It's a dumb comment. Part with Blizzard is probably because he was banned for botting and RMT. I don't know about that. I have no idea. That's beyond my purview here. As a D2 fan, I was skeptical of D4 until I played it. I'm optimistic about it now, and the devs are actually listening to the fan base. True. And I had some apprehension going into D4 as well, because I was a tad concerned, but most of my concerns have been alleviated. Spiritual Journey. Realize this video is a parody of weird Diablo 2 fans. Unable to let go. Bravo. It might have been, yes. I'm still not entirely convinced this whole video wasn't a bait and trap. Every moment is different. It is impossible to have the exact same experience you had before. He said right before taking the exact path I've taken 1,000 times to get to Act 4 town waypoint. Directly to the Act 5 waypoint. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the comments they're reasonable. There's, the comments are the comments. Nobody really seems to be taking the video too seriously. Sup, Halloween? After seeing this, I have determined that Crosscode is your favorite ARPG. Crosscode. I don't know if I've played that one.